Why are JavaScript promises essential for Fetch API calls? Imagine trying to get data from a website without waiting for it to load. It would be chaotic, right? When you use the Fetch API in JavaScript, you're asking the browser to go out and get information from a server. But this process takes time, and your code can't just pause and wait. That's where promises come in to save the day. A promise in JavaScript is like a promise in real life. It's an object that says, "I will give you the result soon." When you call fetch, it immediately returns a promise, not the actual data. The promise starts in a pending state, meaning it's waiting for the server to respond. Once the server sends back the data, the promise moves to either fulfilled if everything went well or rejected if there was an error. Promises are super important because they let your code keep running while waiting for the server. Without promises, your web page would freeze every time it makes a request, making the user experience slow and frustrating. With promises, you can tell your code what to do once the data arrives, using methods like then, to handle success and, to handle errors. This way, your app stays responsive and smooth. Here's how it works in real life. When you call fetch, you get back a promise. You attach then, to tell your code what to do when the data is ready. If something goes wrong, you add, to handle the error. This chaining makes your code cleaner and easier to follow. For example, if you're building a web page that shows user info from an API, you use fetch inside a function. You wait for the promise to resolve, then update the page with the new data. Promises also help you avoid messy nested callbacks, often called callback hell. Instead of nesting functions inside each other, you chain promises, making your code flatter and easier to read. This is especially helpful when you have multiple API calls that depend on each other. In short, promises are essential for making API calls with Fetch because they allow your code to work asynchronously. They keep your website fast and responsive, help you handle success and errors clearly, and make managing multiple requests simpler. Learning how to use promises with Fetch is a key step in mastering modern JavaScript and building interactive web applications that users love.